For half a decade, I have been visiting Japan thrice every year. And almost always, the pilot encourages the passengers to look out the window and witness the symbol of Japan, Mount Fuji, the highest mountain in Japan, standing tall in all its glory. It was 2015. One day, I was walking down the streets of Tokyo with one of my Japanese colleagues. It was a beautiful and clear day, and I could see the magnificent mountain from the street. My colleague informed me that it was Mount Fuji, the most revered mountain of Japan. They call it Fuji-san. It is one of Japan's three holy mountains, the other being Mount Tate and Mount Haku. It is also called Fuyoho, which means the lotus peak. The Japanese consider Mount Fuji sacred, and it has been a place of pilgrimage since ancient times. How did it come by to acquire the name Fuji is unclear, but an early folk etymology claims that the name Fuji comes from two words, which means without equal or unparalleled. Ancient samurai used the base of the mountain as a remote training area near the present-day town of Kotemba. For centuries, Mount Fuji has inspired poets and artists from all over the world. The mountain is mentioned in Japanese literature throughout the ages and is the subject of many poems. Among the most renowned works are Hakusai's 36 views of Mount Fuji and his 100 views of Mount Fuji. My colleague kept on talking about the mountain, but my thoughts were far away. I was transfixed and enthralled by its beauty. I knew I had to see it, touch it, and be blessed by it. I heard my colleague mention that the climbing season had just begun, and July is the best time to visit. As luck would have it, I had been visiting Japan every July, and at that moment I promised myself that my first mountain trek would be through the gorgeous trails of Fuji-san. July 2016. I had exactly 24 hours from the time I landed in Japan to reach the mountain, summit it, and get back to the city in time for my meetings. This required me to be mentally and physically prepared. I knew which trail I had to take and how to get there. This was my first climb ever, and I was doing it all by myself, at night, and in a foreign country. I was nervous, scared, and thrilled, all at the same time. As I walked up the path taken by great poets and painters, the legend of Mount Fuji unfurled in my being, and I could feel its mystery in my nerves, my bones, and my flesh. I reached the summit and beheld the sunrise from the top of Mount Fuji. Little did I know that Mount Fuji will completely transform me. There was something extraordinary about this journey. So the next year in July 2017, I did the summit again. This time, the experience was different. I had even lesser time on this trip, but I could not have left Japan without paying my respects to Fuji-san. I realized that I was not alone. There were hordes of trekkers walking through the night. It was extremely strange and uncanny to experience a human traffic jam on a mountain. I waited with abated breath, and suddenly it rose like a glorious ball of fire. I bowed my head to this magnificent beauty. This is truly the land of the rising sun. However, the realization that I had to be in office in exactly 6 hours brought me back to reality. I ran down the mountain in about 150 minutes flat. Running down a 12,400 feet high mountain to reach office on time was in itself an amusing experience. Trekkers don't bullet climb a mountain this high and then run down as I did. Seeing climbers struggling with acute mountain sickness by the trailheads made me realize that it was not the ideal way of doing it. This thrill that I had experienced has always stayed with me in my heart. As I looked back from the bus and said my goodbyes, I knew I will be coming back to it again.